Hey folks, thanks for stopping by. Today's project is jewelry. We're going to be making these little pendants, both with a special jig and without. This is another great use of small scraps. Stick around, we'll get started. So the first method doesn't involve the use of a special jig. What it does require is that you have a chuck that you can remove a couple of the jaws. So this is just a scrap of wood mounted between those two jaws. And it's important that it's flat, as well as that it protrudes past the edge of your jaws. Mounting is fairly straightforward. You want to take your stock and sand one face of it smooth. I'm just going to use hot melt glue to get it on the chuck. Just a little dollop of hot melt, and then use a tailstock to add some pressure while the hot melt dries. Make sure it's fairly straight. And it should just take a moment to set up. Go ahead and unplug it. Glue gun. So what I typically do is leave the tailstock up for just a moment while I'm rounding over the outside edges. I'll probably take this down to about half its width, just because it's a pendant. It shouldn't have a lot of weight. Round it over, profile it, give it a slight dome shape, and then we'll work on cutting the hole off center. There should be enough time for the hot melt to set up. Let me grab my face shield and a small spindle gouge. Yeah, it is a little bit dangerous, so keep your fingers on this side of the tool rest as much as possible. You will get them lopped off if you get into that spinning propeller. Oh, that should come out nice. Made it with a little bit of sandpaper, and then we'll work on the mounting hole. Okay, before we put a little bit of triple E finish on it, just to show you how good it looks, and then we'll worry about drilling the hole. Oh yeah, that looks good. In case you're wondering, I don't know, I don't know if it's common sense, but I figured I'd go ahead and explain anyway. Why some people will grab their hand while they're sanding or putting finish on. It's so that your hand doesn't go too far. If you're sitting here pushing and your hand slips, I could get into and get smacked by the chuck. By holding my hand like this, I know that my hand will never get into the danger zone. I mean, I don't know if that's just common sense or if it's something that everybody picks up on their own. But I figured I'd mention it. So in order to get this off, what I found works really well for getting hot glue off is just a putty knife. Just work really slow, and eventually it'll pop off. And typically, unless you're dealing with a really soft wood, the glue can just be scraped off any that's left over on the piece. You know what? I didn't mean to do that. I got ahead of myself. Alright. So let me clean this off and I'll remount it and I will show you how to drill the hole. Oh well. And you can't just take it over to the drill press and drill a hole in it, but what I'm going to show you allows you to drill a nice tapered hole that kind of fits with the sow. I know I won't be able to get it absolutely perfectly centered again, but that's okay. Set for a second. So you'll notice that there's a second set of marks on this piece of wood. What that's from is, in a second here when that's dry, I'll loosen up the chuck, shift this down a bit, so that instead of being on center, we're slightly off center. And then I'll use a spindle gouge to cut a mounting hole and be able to bevel the edges and taper it in a way that you couldn't do if you just went over to the drill press. Let me get my chuck key. That should be set up enough now. So if I take a pencil, drill a small like a small hole, you'll see that's nice and close to the edge for mounting a cord. That's just a little. Well, another thing is, for thinner pendants, you want to make sure that you're going, that you're not prying with the grain. You can sometimes snap it in half. So always go with the grain pointing at your scraper. Alright. I'm going to get a little bit of sandpaper to soften that edge, and I think we're good. So if you're only going to be turning one or two pendants, then the previous method works just fine. You can crank out a couple of those, no problem. If you're doing more than a couple, I would seriously recommend investing in this. This is the Ruth Niles pendant jig. It's an awesome piece of kit that mounts in your headstock with a Morse 2 taper. Has a drawbar to keep it from sliding out. The really cool thing is this has two pieces. It's got a base plate back here and then a face plate here where I've mounted a waste block of wood. You can rotate the two pieces separately, either inline, or there are a number of different holes where you can change the orientation of the pendant jig such that it's off center, but it's off center in a repeatable manner, which is important. If you've ever tried any off center turning freehand, trying to get back to that one position that looked really awesome is next to impossible. But with this, it's repeatable. And the jig comes with a bit of software. It's like an Excel spreadsheet that you can kind of plan out what it'll look like ahead of time, which, again, if you've done any off-center turning, it's kind of a crapshoot as to what looks good and what looks like dog do. So let's go ahead and get one mounted up here. Similar concerns for mounting. Sand the back of the pendant as well as you can. I'm going to use hot glue to mount it, and then we'll get started. So I've mounted this block of mahogany in a similar fashion. Just hot melt glue and using the tailstock to apply pressure as the glue dries. Let me grab a spindle gouge and I'll get to turning the profile. So in order to drill the hole, what I'll do is use hole number 6. That's the one that I always use. Okay. Probably a different hole than I normally use, but it'll be interesting. But rather than just doing a hole, let me make some lines. Well, circles. In this case, the arcs. Assembly is pretty straightforward. All you do is cut a piece of jewelry cord to length, fold it in half, slide the fold through the hole, and tie a knot. There you go. You can put little ends on the end of the necklace if you want. It's fairly straightforward. Thanks for sticking with me. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe if it's your first time here. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Take care.